All right, we're about to get started in about 3 minutes. If anybody's online and they can hear me, please send me a message. All right, if anybody's online, I'm going to give it a few minutes for people to hop on. We'll probably get started about 3 to 5 minutes after the hour. All right, so we got other people coming online. I hope everybody's having a great Wednesday. We'll get started in about 2 minutes. I see the count of attendees is going up. Folks probably just got notices on their phones or laptops that the stream is starting. As we're going through this presentation, if you have any questions or any things you want me to address, I'll probably address them towards the end of the presentation. When I'm streaming here, it's hard to read the comments in real time while I'm talking and presenting. I'll hop over when I can. Um, but again, if you put the questions over in the chat, I'll try to address them, and we'll try to take note of them. If it is a question you want addressed in a future session, I plan to send out a survey in the next day or two. There'll be a survey at the end of this presentation as well, where we'll ask what some topics folks would like future sessions to focus on. All right, we're getting about 1 more minute and we'll get started. Can everybody hear me okay? Can somebody type a chat message just to make sure the chat part's working? Anybody? Can you, just making sure everybody can hear me okay? All right, checking with my co-host here, my secret co-host. All right, great. Awesome. Thank you. All right. Well, another 30 seconds, we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you. And Linda Gupta. Awesome. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. My name is Trevor Lowing. This is the Vibe Code Circle. It's a meetup group, but it's also a social group. The first thing that I'm going to mention today is because meetup chat messaging and messaging in general is not great for collaborating. I went ahead and stood up an online forum so that we can share information, share files if we need to share files, be able to message each other, be able to put something out there for folks to read. You might not be watching this live right now. They might watch it in a few days, and the site and posting things on the site will help them be able to access it when they have time to access it. And I'm going to talk later on after the main presentation about future sessions. I'm going to be getting access for folks that want to try some of these AI tools if they would like to. I'm going to talk about the different kinds that we have access to, and that'll probably dictate which ones you want access to, and we probably rotate through or give you access to multiple if you're interested in multiple. A lot of it comes down to your primary use for using AI and vibe coding. I call it vibe coding. Some folks think that that means just software coding, but in reality, for every individual out there writing software and vibing software code, there's probably 1,000 or 10,000 that are doing it for content. And the focus of this session is the first session on content development, and I'll be talking in depth about what does that mean and some of the basic techniques that you can use to do content development. In the chat here, I posted a couple of links. One is the link to the website, and you can click to see it shared on the screen here. Click to join now. You can enter a username, password, or use social login to create the account and access the discussion board. It is basically a clone of Circle if you've ever used Circle before, but this one's running on WordPress. And if you can, go ahead and set up that account there. That's where I'll be able to get your email address to be able to share and set up the accounts with you and message you if we have any problems setting up those accounts. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Why is my screen here? All right, so this is the website, and once you're logged in, it's going to look like this. And like I said, it looks, if you've ever used Circle, it's basically a clone of Circle. Not a lot of content here right now. I just got it set up this week and had to set up, put all the parts together to make it functional so folks could log in and theme it and all the wonderful things that you do. One thing to note is that all of these sort of rooms, you've got to join them to be able to comment on them. And so, like any areas that you're interested in, you'll see some like general discussion, project showcases, tools and apps, and prompting. If you have ideas for other areas to put in here, go ahead and do that. So that's the link to the website. The other link is the link to this presentation. And here's what it looks like when you pull it up. This is my vibe coded presentation. So this is basically an HTML file I put up on GitHub for everybody to use. And what's different about this than other presentations is there's a live component of it. Some of the pages actually have an AI chat interface, so you'll be able to enter prompts and see what the output looks like and sort of learn a little bit more in real time. And my intent for these sessions is to have as many interactive sessions and learning sessions as we can, so we become very fluent and very comfortable with prompting. Unlike other things in life where there was a cost or a large cost involved with developing, doing things. AI right now, we're sort of in the boom. It's readily available, and learning through experimentation is probably the best way to go. I'll be talking about some techniques. If you caught my session a few weeks ago where I talked about, like prompting and vibe coding websites, and some of the basics of prompting, um, there's a common sort of basis for all of it. A lot of it is having a really clear idea, a clear idea what the context is, and telling the AI what that context is, so that it understands when you ask something what you really mean. The clearer you are about what you mean, the more likely you are to get what you want. The other thing is it's an iterative process. It's not always just one and you're done. So anyhow, so today I'm going to be talking about the landscape of AI content, all the different kinds of content that's out there. I'll talk just a little bit about models because certain models are better at different types of content development than others, and we'll talk about some practical techniques for both generating and transforming the content. There's a lot of techniques you can apply to do with the information or to shape the information for its intended purpose. And then we'll talk about a little bit about like what does this mean in the, say, the workplace. If you're developing content either for the workplace or for your business, you wind up with an iterative process you're going to want to repeat over and over again so you have a consistent outcome. And we'll talk about workflows. I'll do a future session and show you actually some methods you can do for workflows. I'm big into Kanban. If you've ever used Kanban before, it's great for managing workflows and work in process. And then we'll talk about like publishing and some of the techniques for publishing the content once you're done. And here we go. Next slide. And if you can follow along with this, when we get to future slides, there'll be some chats on here, and you'll have the opportunity to modify. There'll be default ones on some of the slides. You can change them as you need. Let me check the comments real quick. All right. Oh, hey, Isaac, that's awesome. Yeah, I just love this stuff. I think everybody is really going to enjoy vibe coding. It's really like I mentioned in a prior session, is like I've never really been much of an artist. I can't draw a straight line to save my life. Coding when I was younger really sort of opened up that creativity in me, and now vibe coding just is that to 10,000 times greater. So what do we mean when we're talking about content development? What kinds of content are we talking about? There's a lot of ways you can slice and dice it, but I think one way to look at it is you have content you're developing internally, you have content you're developing externally. For instance, for internally, maybe you're doing reports, you're doing proposals, you've got a business process. That business process has an artifact. Maybe you've got to do presentations. You got to do a slide presentation. Maybe you got to share slides, that sort of thing. Maybe do spreadsheets or some kind of data analysis. Maybe you need to do meeting summaries or emails or summarizing emails. All those sort of things that are sort of like the internal workings for a business. And then you have sort of the external. And you're trying to engage with an external entity. You're trying to do like search engine optimization so that your website gains more traction, so that you can have more interactions with potential customers to improve your business. A way to have a consistent brand voice. And some tools are specialized for these things. What is a brand voice? We'll talk about that in a future session, but it's basically speaking in a very straightforward and consistent way on behalf of your business and all the content that you develop, so that it's very cohesive and the customer understands what you mean and what you represent. And then lead generation is a big one, especially on the web. You want to try to convert. You want to try to get leads, get business opportunities happening. So you might post blogs, you might post articles, you might post to social media. You might do regular old-fashioned marketing and ad copy in an electronic form or any kind of online form. And you might do landing pages. Landing pages aren't just static content. They're designed to have interactivity to try to generate those leads. All right, so use cases. So AI excels at drafting initial versions, summarizing long documents, transforming content, and whatnot. All right, so this is just another slide to talk, sort of like the kinds of content. You've got like text-based content, which might be, like I said, blogs, articles, marketing copy. If you're following along online, you can click through these if you want a better idea of what we mean by content. These are just lots of examples and some of the models that you might use that are specialized, like visual content and generating graphics have very specific models. You've heard of Midjourney and Dolly and Stable Diffusion and Ideogram. They specialize in that sort of content. Audio, text to speech, speech to text, you name it. You have electronic voices, I know public speaking is a scary thing for a lot of folks. Maybe you say too much. I probably say too much. And you want to be able to produce training content or marketing content or a YouTube video and these electronic voices that can clone your voice, or you can use a standard voice and and put out the way we really want to put it out there. Make your brand voice, make the voice of your content match what you really want. And this area has seen a lot of improvements. A few years ago, these voices sounded robotic. Sometimes nowadays you can't tell. You really can't tell. Sometimes you can tell whose voice they cloned for these voices, which I think is kind of funny. Sometimes people clone other people's voices without telling them and just tweak it a little bit, which is a little nice. So you got educational content like this, what you're seeing right here, interactive content. That's sort of the interesting thing. I'll show you some links. I'll share some links after this to show like this sort of a presentation. You can have this be more interactive. You can create like things within presentations that you can interact with, graphs that you can interact with in real time. Things that would have taken a lot of time and expertise in the future. You just got to ask for it in the prompts. All right, so choosing tools, platforms, and models. So you got general chat interfaces like Chat GPT or Gemini. Here's an example right here. This is Gemini right here. You've seen this interface before probably 100 times. It's a very common chat interface. You got Office integrations. This is probably the best example of what we're going to see for AI integration in the workplace. Is applications under the cover are going to have all kinds of micro specialist AI interactions that'll be transparent to you, but it'll kind of turboize your work when you're writing content like in Office. Right now, it's very high level, but if you listen to like keynote speeches that are happening right now, and what does the future of AI look like? That's a real possibility. Is you can have all these specialized things that help you with different parts of the content instead of having to specialize you having to know 10 different ways to write a prompt. You got content managing and marketing tools, which is again like specializing it for the purpose. You got IDE and code editors. We talked about that in the previous session too. You can actually, well, you can't see my entire desktop, but you've heard of Cursor, you've heard of Visual Studio. Most of the IDEs that are really popular for coding right now are forks of Visual Studio. All right, so setting the context. How do you prompt the AI to produce the content in the way you want it? How do you make it understand what it is that you want, what you're asking for? What's the context behind it? So there's different like sort of thumb rules or exercises that you can do if you're doing it off the cuff. We'll talk a little bit later. Like I said, if you have a standardized workflow, this will be more mature. You'll come up with templates for prompting so you get a really consistent outcome. But a lot of times you're just at work or you're at home and you're just trying to produce an outcome. But what you don't want to do is like make 5 mistakes before you really get what you want. So there's a couple of ways you can go about it. This first one's called the CARE method. Context, provide the background. Who's the audience? What's the purpose? Action, state the primary verb. You want it to write, you want it to summarize, you want it to transform, you want it to create a table, you want it to create a graph, whatever. And then role. This is a big one. It's you assign the persona for the AI. When you tell the AI, you are an expert author, and I want you to write an article in the format of the New York Times, it can do that. It has, they've scraped the internet. It's seen lots of New York Times articles. There's like such a neural network in there. So when you ask it that, you say, you give it the role, the persona to act in, it can do a really good job of that, and it helps set that context extra fine. The next slide, I'll talk about like the thumb rule I usually use is similar to this. Then explicit instructions. You want to give any constraints. You want to give any things about tone, format, length, keywords. You can, and I'll be posting online in the next week, some sort of like prompt wizards where you can sort of go through this exercise and it'll build it out. You just choose some options and it'll build out a more detailed prompt for you instead of having to remember all this stuff off the head. But remembering care and just walking through the exercise can save you a lot of time. So this here is actually a chat box. And I just had it pre-prompted. You can change this. So you should have this open on your desktop now. You can change these if you want to. So pick a role, pick your role at work. Pretend this is you. Have it pretend to be you, which should be fun. And then action, what do you want to do? I'm just going to run the preloaded one, but while I'm doing that, it'll take a minute for it to generate and return. Why don't you go ahead and modify yours, and we'll look at the outcome and see what you think about it. So imagine this is like 5 sentences, right? 5 sentences. You can think of this up pretty quick, and you want to do a detailed proposal. So it's writing a detailed proposal as a senior project manager, and it's for an internal project to develop a new employee training portal. The audience is senior management, and the goal is to secure funding. Basically, it's like an internal pitch. And the outline should include the introduction, the problem statement, the solution, timeline, budget, and success metrics. And bam, so it generated, and this is the response here. Now, the format you're seeing here, sort of the default and the common format you're going to see the output of a prompt, and I usually ask for, is called Markdown. Markdown is readable by human and structured enough that the AI can also understand it. And you can easily convert this online to something that looks like a Word document by just copying, pasting, and then copying the formatted Word version. So you can see it's, project title, Elevated. It even came up with a clever little quirky name for the project: Enhanced Employee Development and Organizational Performance Through Modern Training Portal. Fill in the blank for date, prepared for, senior leadership, prepared by, executive summary, problem statement, proposed solution, with all these, like clever, oh, wow, use smart, key features, in scope, what's not in scope, that sort of thing. Look at all that detail. Look at this. Like, how many hours would it take you to come up with a plan like that if you had to do it on your own? It would take just hours and hours. And this might not be perfect, right? So this is maybe your starting point, and you just refine it. I'm going to go ahead and pop over and look at the chats here, see if anybody's I've been testing different AI tools, but I'll get to the same wall. I'm not able to deploy for production. That's interesting. I have a lot of problem with API and functionalities. We can talk about that in a future session. There's a thing out there called MCP, Model Context Protocol. In sort of the old days, you had to tie two systems together through an application programming interface, and it's very like one-to-one. Like the API is not going to work if both systems are sort of talking through that API almost perfectly. Whereas MCP is more like self-defining, let you connect systems, let you extend systems in a way that like AIs can intuitively understand. But Isaac, if you want, hop on the forum, post, your question and what you'd like help with, and I would be glad to help with that. I love troubleshooting, and we can help you move that along. All right, so that was that one. Did anybody else, if you had anything interesting out of this, if you modified the prompt, I'd be curious to see. Maybe we can talk about it at the end, or you can post in the forum what your thoughts were on it. We just turned 5 sentences into a complete proposal, ready to be tweaked. Right now, it's using Gemini in the background, a Gemini model. You will see it's not overly verbose. This actually is more of an outline, right? There's not a lot of paragraphs and sentences, and maybe you want to. You can refine it and do that. Sometimes you can take this and just throw it into another model to expand it more. Some models are great at doing the high level summary. Other ones are better at fleshing the ideas out. All right, so I'm going to go on to the next tool, and this is the one I actually use every day. This is my default. I'm on the fly on my phone in a meeting, and I'm trying to, flesh out an idea, or I want to produce something, or I want to take, something and figure out an email and figure out how to respond to it. And this is exactly what I do. So if anybody's got any software background, if you've heard this thing called a user story, is the way that they define requirements, but it's got a very specific format. It's basically as a persona, whatever that persona is. I want whatever it is you want, so that what the desired outcome is. So that's telling the AI, who to pretend that you're going to be. So it'll inherently understand what that means in the context of that. What it wants to produce, and then combine that so that it understands. If you're asking for a business proposal and you're a business proposal analyst, bam, like it knows that context. It's going to have a better time nailing it on the first time. And then outcome. What's the intended outcome? And it'll shape the content to meet that desired end state. And like the previous slide, so this is, it's going to say best for ideas for blog posts, marketing, anything really. This one is a general thumb rule, easy to remember, one small sentence. You can become reflexive when you want to do something. You're writing an email, you can say like, as the whatever my role is at work, I want to respond to so-and-so so that, they understand what I mean, and then paste in, the email into the chat prompt, and it'll draft a response for you. That's just one example. All right, so for the demo here, this is like the last one. You can modify this and generate your own. And the default example is, as a small business owner, I want to understand the basics of SEO so that I can improve my website's visibility on Google. That's huge, right? Hey, this will be a cool one. This is something everybody's probably curious about. So I'll go ahead and run it. If you guys want to tweak it, I'll go ahead and check comments while that's running again. All right. It'd be cool if you guys, use a different prompt. If you chat about, like, if it did something unexpectedly, or you're surprised or impressed or maybe not impressed with the outcome, go ahead and put it in the chat. Oops. All right. All right. So mine cranked it out. So this is the AI response. It said, as a small business owner, tackling SEO might seem daunting, but it's one of the most powerful and cost-effective ways to get your business found online. What is SEO? Basics for small business. It stands for search engine optimization. It's a practice for improving your website to increase its visibility when people search for products. Imagine you do this for any topic, right? Why is it important for small business? You can get free organic traffic. Your website will attract that traffic if it's optimized and winds up at the top of the search results. So on like paid ads, we got to pay for it. This sort of stuff is free. Websites that rank higher are perceived as more trustworthy and authoritative. Here we go. It's just walks you. You would, because you told it what you wanted and why you wanted it, it shaped the outcome to meet that need. So instead of having to read 10 articles that are slightly off the mark, maybe you luck out and find an article that nails it on the head first time around. But a lot of times, if you're like me, you search, you Google, you click a few links, and then you end up having to, figure out, okay, now I understand. This will just nail it on the head. So pretty cool. And you can modify this. That's here. I'm going to change one word. How about this? Instead of SEO, the basics of finance, so that I can improve my personal income. So I changed like 3 words there, right? Let's run it. Thinking, and I'll check for messages again really quick. So if you guys, if you're running this, can you just chat to make sure you are able to run these? You should be able to, just running on the web. There we go. All right, there we go. Here we go. As a small business owner, understanding the basics of finance, the foundation, separating business from personal finances, crucial first step. Part 1, business finance basics, how your business makes money for you. So it's great. There we go. Article, again, tailored to tell you exactly what you want. Again, it's in Markdown format. You can easily convert this to Word. If you're not, eventually, if you're doing vibe coding, and prompting, you'll get used to Markdown. If it's too hard for you to read, again, you can easily convert it, to formatted like you do in Microsoft Word. Okay. So, how do you tell a good prompt from a bad prompt, right? So, if you're looking in terms of the criteria of like clarity or specificity, if you're vague, it's not going to be a great outcome. If you have clear action and you provide some details, it's going to be better. If you give it precise action and detailed constraints, format length, a voice to use, that sort of thing, it's going to nail it right on the head. Context and audience. Who's it for? Like, who's the audience for this? Like, the output, who's going to be reading it? If you don't give any context, you never know what it's going to come up with. It's going to guess. If you at least tell it the audience or the purpose a little bit, it's going to help figure it out. But if you're really specific about what persona to use, what persona of the audience is, what kind of content length you want, that sort of thing, it'll produce that outcome. Role definition, if you don't assign a role, again, it could be vague. It could be totally off the mark because it doesn't know like what domain you're asking the question in. If you give it like an expert role, like you heard me on another one earlier, I said like expert. What's that mean? You can be more specific. You can be a certified public accountant. Instead of expert, you can give something like that. I have an MBA. I guess that's an expert. Hey, I got one of those. All right. Specific expert role. The more specific you are, again, it'll sort of move the information into that domain and produce a really high quality, on the nose output. And if you provide examples, and we'll talk a little about this in a future slide, this technique, examples are great. Examples give it really good. We'll talk about few shot in a minute. So if you don't give an example, it's just going to invent whatever. If you give it a simple example, it'll follow that. If you give detailed example and multiples of it, it's gonna basically boil that down and create something that's right on the mark. All right, so transforming content. So when you're writing content yourself, you transform it. Whenever you, as a human, need to do something, you look at the intended purpose, and you're like, okay, I've got to summarize this document. I need to take these concepts and I need to elaborate on them or expand them. I need to take, why is the sky blue? And I want to, write a whole paper on it. You want to paraphrase, you want to rewrite it, you want to change the voice tone, you want to simplify it. One thing that you hear a lot today is using like plain language. Plain language is like explaining it in a way that a fifth grader can understand it. And that can be really, really beneficial because a lot of times, especially if you're a domain expert in an area and you're talking to an audience that aren't domain experts, using that plain language can help be the translator for you and be more effective in how you communicate. You can change the tone. If you're trying to convince somebody of something, you're trying to be really formal or you're trying to be less formal, you can tweak all of that. And then you got sentiment, like what's the undertone of what you're trying to convey, like are you skeptical or positive? It has the ability to impart that nuance. And the better the model and the more specific the model is for doing that, you'll have a better outcome. You might convert the format. I've mentioned earlier, like Markdown. Some of these will just tell it, I want a bulleted list. Okay, take that bulleted list, give me a CSV or turn it into a table or whatever. You can just convert it on the fly with a lot of these, and they're getting better with it all the time. A really cool one is a format called Mermaid. So if you want to be able to produce a diagram, and this is one of those things, there's not a lot of great diagramming tools out there. They tend to be very expensive. Most of these language models, the newer ones, understand when you're asking for a mermaid version of a model. So you can say like, okay, I want to explain to somebody whatever your process is, and provide the outcome in Mermaid. You can take that Mermaid, you can paste it into a Mermaid tool. Some AIs have built-in tools, and suddenly, boom, you've got a really pretty graphic that would have taken you hours and hours before you would have to mess with it. outline and structure, different ways of formatting it. You might want to extract information. I do that sometimes. I'll load up a whole bunch of documents, and I'm like, what does this all mean? What are my key takeaways? Or, I'm acting in this role, and I have this situation going on. Extract out of all these documents what should be most relevant, or most important to me. It's great. It would take you hours and hours and hours. If you work like in the compliance realm, where there's a lot of governance and you've got to try to interpret it, it's great for that. Q&A generation. I had to do some training content. That's a great way to do it. It used to take me forever to come up with quiz questions for the content, and this can do it in seconds. And you got metadata and captioning. Again, if you want to be able to caption and generate it, text to speech, that sort of thing, you can add, basically this kind of called SRT file to a video so that you can caption it and then you translate it. AI is really great for translation, multi-language. Some of them are better than others, but they're specialized tools, and you can translate. Give me 1 second. Yeah, I'm not sure what that was. All right, back. All right, so here's another exercise using transformation commands. This one here, we're going to transform a report into presentation points. So summarize the following text into 5 key bullet points suitable for a PowerPoint presentation. This is a really common one. And you can see this is like a paragraph. Maybe it came out of a report. You're like, all right, I need to make a presentation on this. Let's see how it does. All right, and you can see the 5 key bullet points. There we go. North American sales, again, it's in markdown format. You can easily convert it. And so North American sales grew 15%. Your American market grew 3% decline. Recommendation, overall focus. Boom, you've got your slide. And that, is going to take you a long time. All right. Earlier I talked about the spew shot. The idea is, just give me 1 second. I cannot talk. I'm doing a live stream. Talk to my wife. What? I need to pop out for the disconnect because I can't search the spot. I don't even know what that means, but like, all right, sorry. Sorry about that, folks. The hot tub guy is coming here for maintenance. All right. So few shot. So here's an example. Generate 3 marketing taglines for a new brand of sustainable coffee. Follow the pattern below. Again, you can tweak this for an outcome you'd like to do. So product is smart watch, tagline. All right, we need a tagline. So we give it 2 examples. We leave the third one blank, and we want it to come up with some more taglines. And it's going to sort of read the first ones and come up with some of its own. Yeah, any reason it's taking a response time. So this is passing across the internet, and I'm running it through a proxy because I don't want to share my AI key. Because if I share my AI key, then obviously you could wind up get it snarked up by another AI and overused. And so you're sort of at the whim of your internet connection. I put it up here on GitHub, so it should do better, than like hosting it on my machine, because GitHub's, what do you want to say, cached all over the world, or it has edge presence all over the world, and this file should, it's most likely just whatever's between you and the LLM. Oh, shoot, hold on. All right, here's the 3 marketing taglines. Your morning, responsibility brewed, your choice, conscientiously made, the good, grown right. So there's some cool taglines. I'm not a tagline person. Those are much better than what I would come up with. All right, progressive iteration. I'm not going to get into this one. This isn't a great way to present this information. There's other tools that I'll share after this. Once you get on the forum and I get yours, I can set you up with accounts with tools that are better at like having a chain where you ask it one question, it produces a result, and the next time you ask it a question, It understands that as part of the context, and you sort of just keep improving it, improving it, improving it. But anyhow, so imagine you just generate a list of marketing ideas, and now the AI to elaborate on one of them. You say that's a good start. Take the idea about a social media photo contest and expand it into a brief plan. Include goal, platform, and sample announcement. And I'm going to check the messages again. This is my own instance of Gemini. For future sessions, I'm going to rotate the key. I don't know, like at what point, it's gonna overload my account. I've got multiple accounts, so I'll probably rotate keys and probably find a way to rotate models and adjust models for these live presentations. Give me some feedback. Do you like doing exercises like this where you can run them yourself and tweak them yourself as we're going along? You find value in that? This is going to stay up online. I'll probably keep it up online at least a week. So, bookmark this. You can play with it if you don't have access to the tool. I'm going to be, if you request it via the forum, I'm going to be giving you access to some other tools that, are a little more specialized for developing content. This model is generally 2.0 Flash. I asked it. I just don't remember off the top of my head what model it's using, but it's pretty good content. Here we go. All right. So, okay. And it did what I said. Overall goal to significantly increase brand engagement, blah, blah, blah. Primary platform, brief plan overview, theme concept, entry mechanism, prizes, runner prizes, bonus, duration, judge winner section. There you go. How to enter. It even gave you some, like stock stuff that you can use in your marketing materials. So again, this was taking hours because you gave it a good prompt, and it had sort of a chain. It knew where it was going. It produced a really good outcome. The other thing that's cool about this presentation is it caches the responses, so you can go back and forth. But if you close the page, I'm sure that won't happen. All right, next. So this is getting into the sort of workflow part of it. And when you get more mature and you're producing the same type of content and you want to refine it and tune it, what you'll do is you'll build these like templates. And again, this is Markdown, like we talked before. And what you'll do is you'll take your prompts, put them in a Markdown, and then keep like tweaking the template. So your prompt gets better and better and better and more on the mark for what you want it to do. Then you have a library of these prompts for everything that you do. And then you can build a workflow around that. You can see this example here. It says act as an expert in whatever your industry is, content strategist and writer, skilled in SEO and engaged in storytelling. You want it to write a comprehensive, well-structured blog post. Topic, whatever the topic is, and explicit instructions. You give it how many words you want, what tone you want it to use, witty, authentic. Like I said, I'm going to be developing, or I do have some sort of like wizards we can use for as a better starting point, than having to start from scratch to come up with a prompt right here. What's really great at writing these templates and really good at writing prompts is the AI itself. One of the big little cheater things that I do is I'll start with that prompt, or say as the user story one, and it'll do a rough output, and then I'll say improve that, and the AI will improve the prompt. Another way is like if you just like roughly have an idea and you throw it out there, of a prompt of what you want. It's not perfect, and maybe it's not totally linear, like you would try to explain to a human, and you just sort of like cobble all your thoughts together, and then you just tell it, improve this prompt, and it'll improve the prompt, structure it, format it, make it easier and produce a better outcome. That's a big time saver, and considering that these language models cost money, it's a big money saver too. Because asking it to improve a prompt's a lot cheaper than if you have it, generating a large amount of content, and that content isn't what you want. Automation and integration. This is part of the workflow. So again, maybe start with a source of truth. Like a brief, a project report, or a product document. And then you use the AI to transform it in a stepwise way. So extract key points into a PowerPoint, summarize the report into a blog post, generate 5 social media posts for a blog post, and draft an email announcement. You can write one prompt to do all of these. You can write one prompt to do all of these and put it in a format like JSON, where you can send it off through automation to each one. You can have it one go to your SharePoint. You can have one go to your social media account. You can have one auto post to WordPress. It's totally possible and super easy nowadays. And again, that's like 5 different products you're generating on the fly. And so you can, bam, you can go. There's like tools in future sessions. I'll go over some of the cool automation tools that there are out there that let you sort of build out that workflow. And we'll build out some workflows. It's pretty cool stuff. All right. Live demo. I was going to go through this. We're already at 6:43. I'm a little slower than planned. I think we've done enough demos for today. I'm going to plan a separate session. I'm going to do like a survey, like I said, after this, and I'm going to ask, for a type of content you want a special session on, and we'll do that as a live demo and walk through it so that you can see like what's the overall process end to end for a high quality product. All right, so what's a workflow look like? Strategy and prompting, iteration, refinement, and review and publishing. And this sort of thing you can build into if you have a workflow tool. Like I said, Kanban tools are fairly common nowadays. And I'll show you guys like a Kanban tool that I'll put together for the demo for this in the next couple of weeks. All right, so you can have job aids and where you can sort of audit after the fact. So for instance, one thing I have is I have a converter where I have to convert a document from one format to another. And I have a checklist where I tell the AI, I says, do this, produce this. And then I have the AI sort of act in a different role and validate that it does, the content is doing everything that it's supposed to do, to double check. Because sometimes it makes a mistake. Sometimes it misinterprets. It can help you catch things that are wrong with the original, template prompt. It's sort of, a way, before you send it out the door. What you don't ever want to do is just send it out the door without reviewing it, because sometimes it's wrong. I usually say, this all follows the 80-20 rule. If you're doing anything, 80% of it's easy, 20% of it's hard. Even with this, it's the same. This will get, the AI vibe coding gets you the 80% a lot faster. But that 20% is still, requires the human to make sure that it's suit for the purpose that you intended, and that you review it before it goes out, because chances are you're going to be held accountable if it's not. So always be ethical in this. It's really good to help with your credibility. You're accountable for the content you produce. You're transparent. Like where are your sources coming from? You want to version your prompts, so that you're progressively improving them over in time within your workflow. All right, so we're at 6:45, so I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to type any questions you have at the chat. And I'm going to go ahead and advance to the next slide because there's sort of a little quiz thing that I wanted to get from folks. But key takeaways, differentiation between different types of content, the frameworks that you can use for developing the content, what kind of commands you can use to do summarize or expand and that sort of thing. And always have a human review the output before go ahead and publish it, because you're going to be held accountable for it. And then next steps, like I said, on our SharePoint site, there's or not SharePoint site, on our community site here, there's going to be a prompt library. You'll see that in the form is blank now. We'll build that out over time. Tool guide, I'm going to be posting as a tool section where we'll share what we like about tools that we use. I have a lot that I'll be adding into that. And then join the community. The meetup's great for live stuff. It's great for these streaming sessions and the back and forth via chat. But I think the online forum gives us more time and gives us greater opportunity to share information and share usage tools, and so that we can get even more done. All right, so slide 21 here. What you do is so these are the different kinds of content that you can produce. Like I said, I was going to do a dedicated one. So pick your top 5. I'll take everybody's top 5, collate it, and figure out like what's the thing that people want. So you can drag these around. And this was vibe coded, by the way. Pick your 5. Sort your top 5 to the top, then copy this and paste it into the forum in response to the post that I did, the single post that's out in the community site right now. And I'll use that as the topic for the next meeting. In 2 weeks, we have a really special one. There is a cool tool out there for AI content development called ZimWriter. And Matt Zim is the developer of that. He is a content development expert. His tool is one of the best on the market. Not always easiest to use. It's very bespoke, and but a lot of people swear by it. I've used it. I'm impressed by it. It really can both produce fine-tuned output and save you a lot of money by adjusting what models you use for what parts of the content. And he's going to be doing. I've scheduled that up on the meetup. You should see that in 2 weeks. He's agreed to do that. I'm going to pop over and see if anybody has any questions. All right. Hey, awesome. Thanks, Isaac. All right. All right. So again, I think this chat goes away when I close the meeting. And what I'd like you to do, like I said, is join the community site and hop back over to folks to see it. Go over to this website, click join now. You can use social media or you can create a password. It'll kick you into the website here. You'll see this single post. Take the output of the slide here and just copy it, whatever your top 5 are, and just reply to this, and whatever. There you go, post. And I'll take all these and I'll combine them. So I want to thank everybody for being here today. This is really great. This is fun stuff. I think we can all learn together and learn to use this technology and share our experiences so we can keep getting better at it. Trying to do these. How do you get in touch with me? The forum is the best one. Or you can do like support@vibecodecircle.com is another one. But the forum, I'll be looking at the forum fairly regularly. But that's a good way to get started. There's a messaging thing in there too. I think you can message me inside the forum as well, or email me and I'll get back to you. Thank you, everybody. It was a great having you here. If you have any questions after the fact, post them on the forum. I'll be posting this YouTube, clean it up a little bit, and post it up on YouTube in the next couple of days. And that's basically what I do. I do this session. I'm going to record it. Anybody that wasn't able to be here live would be able to go up on YouTube and see it. Eventually, I'm going to try to stream to other platforms too. If you can, review me on Meetup. I think this session has probably gone better than any session so far. No network issues, and I'm getting better at using the tools. So I'd appreciate any feedback that you want to give me either in the forum or a private email. And if you have any thoughts on improvement or if you appreciate it, I'd love to hear that. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Join the community site. You guys have a great Wednesday evening, and I'll see you at the next session. Thank you.